I remember one of the most popular videos I've ever posted. I'm sitting in my car eating a huge chocolate chip cookie because I was like, I'm going to show women that I'm stressed, and therefore I just went through to Panera and got a massive chocolate chip cookie. And this is how I'm dealing with my stress, because that's real. I stress eat sometimes. And I'm not apologizing for it. Right now, it's like you have to be food prepping, perfect food. And then there's this level of motherhood that to me is almost the harshest judgment. And it's the most cruelest, I think. If you want to make me feel bad about myself, question me as a mother, or be passive aggressive about motherhood to me.
Welcome to Success Reimagined. I am Dr. Amna Shabbir, your host on this journey to thrive at the intersection of ambition and wellness. In every episode, I'll help you challenge outdated definitions of success, discover practical tools and strategies for growth without compromising your well-being. I am so glad you've joined me. Let's reimagine what's possible together. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Sasha Shillcutt, a tenured and endowed professor and vice chair of strategy in the Department of Anesthesiology at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Dr. Shillcutt is a board-certified cardiac anesthesiologist, internationally recognized speaker, and the founder of Brave Enough, an organization dedicated to empowering professional women. She has authored over 50 peer-reviewed articles in leading medical journals and is the author of 2 acclaimed books, Between Grit and Grace, The Art of Being Feminine and Formidable, and Brave Boundaries, Strategies to Say No, Stand Strong, and Take Control of Your Time. Her TEDx talk, Resilience, the Art of Failing Forward, has resonated with audiences worldwide, and she continues to inspire women to embrace their full potential with authenticity and courage. Outside of her professional life, Dr. Shillcutt balances her many endeavors as a wife and mother. I have been personally impacted by her work, and I am beyond delighted that she's here. Welcome, Dr. Shillcutt.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm excited to chat with you.
Thank you. Of all the things that I can ask you, and there's so many topics that I just want to go and explore. Today, we're going to be focusing primarily on perfectionism, which has been the theme on which I've been asking experts and researchers all around the world their thoughts and their insights that they've had on their journey. So when I was listening to your extremely moving TEDx talk, you open it with this phrase, perfection is a word I have strived for my entire life, my entire career, and that really hit home for me. How has perfectionism shown up in your personal and professional life?
In good and bad ways. So I think my strive for perfectionism, honestly, probably allowed me to enter medicine as a first-generation medical school graduate in my family. So I can't say that it has always been bad, because I think my drive to be perfect, especially younger in my life, really was something that had good outcomes. So when I look back, I'm like, I wanted to get the perfect scores. I want to get perfect grades. I want to be the perfect child for my parents. And part of that, after reflecting for the last, decade or so, really doing this internal work, a lot of my perfectionism came from my family life. It wasn't that my parents ever said you have to be perfect. I never heard that from my parents. But I had a family member who was not well in my family and mentally caused a lot of stress. And I saw what that did to my parents. And so as a younger sibling, I was like, I want to be the child that brings joy and peace and calm to my parents. And so to do that, I'm going to achieve like the highest thing I can. And in my little brain, age 8, that was being a doctor, right? So I was like, I'm going to get perfect grades. And it wasn't because they put pressure on me, because they honestly didn't. It was me wanting to please my parents. So for many reasons, I am thankful that I was a little perfectionist, because it did protect me from a lot of poor experiences and poor outcomes, I think, as a child, only because I didn't do things that I felt were going to hurt me later on in life. So even in my dating relationships, I had to date the perfect person. And the minute that person was like, showed me his imperfection, I was like, I'm out. And sometimes I look back and I go, man, I was like a little militant type A, but I also go, you know what? I don't have a lot of bad childhood trauma because I was this little like perfectionist. Now, later in my life, it definitely caused negative aspects. And I've had to overcome being a perfectionist. And I've definitely had to change that for my own children who are growing up in a much different environment in a different day and age. So now I think in the first part of my life, I think it was a positive thing in some ways, just in my family of origin with what I was going through. But later in my life, it showed up in negative ways, and I've had to dismantle and unlearn those perfectionistic behaviors.
Wow, that's very interesting perspective as like stepping back when it was serving you in that role and then realizing when it's not serving you anymore. Like one of the things that I keep reflecting on is basically the underlying desire. Is the underlying desire external validation slash exhaustion, where you find yourself in that intersection?
I think that when I was younger, I think it was a protection. I thought if I'm perfect, I will make everyone around me happy and I will be safe. Like I attributed perfection with safety. And like I said, in some ways it worked for me because I coach a lot of women, I coach people, and I hear about things that I did not experience because I literally strived for perfection. But then what later in my life, I realized like this is so toxic, this drive for perfection, that it's not like external validation. It's literally a safety mechanism that no longer serves me. It's actually hurting me. And that is something I think specifically in healthcare we all can identify with, because think about the word do no harm. It's not do do no harm the best you can, but forgive yourself if you do. That's not the thing. It's do no harm, do zero harm.
Yeah.
Zero harm policies. We have this everywhere. How many times does a GME survey come out and we tell everyone you have to answer 100% on all these? We do all of these things 100% of the time. Otherwise, we're going to get flagged, right? So we still strive for perfectionism, but we're humans. There's errors. There's less than perfect. There's no way we can be perfect in healthcare. And so it becomes this toxic strive for what you're working so hard for. And for me, like how this showed up later in my life was burnout, just total 100% burnout. Like I have to be the perfect mom, and I have to be the perfect doctor, and I have to be the perfect wife, and I got to look perfect, and I got to be, perfect in all the ways all the time. That is not an obtainable goal, and it is unrealistic. There is zero way that you will ever be perfect. And most of the time now it's like I look at people so differently. I don't know if you do this because you've studied this, but now when I see someone that is either posting perfectly or what they put out in the world, the way they present themselves is perfect, I know that there is an area of their life that is a dumpster fire, that they are so trying to cover up. So they are presenting this only perfection because they don't actually know how to show up real, you know? And I get it because that was me. Like that was 100% me.
Every word of that just resonated with me so well because I have decided to show up as I am. Like that is my goal. And so there are times when you're put together and you're going to show up like that on social media. And there are times when you're going to see my stretch marks because the camera is angled poorly. And that's okay because that's how I am. And there are times when I wear glasses. There are times when I'm wearing contacts. And you're so right. But and there was the longest time ever that there was this relentless pursuit of appearing flawless, which prevented me from like literally doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you go back and look at I've probably been on social media now for about 8 years, like had a platform, I would say for 8 years. And if you go back and look at my first 3 to 5 years of Brave Enough, 90% of what I posted was perfection, like filter, look. I had to always have makeup on. Like today, right now, I'm not wearing makeup. I always had to look 100%. I took 100 pictures to post one. And actually someone told me to do that. Like I went to training early when I was starting this platform, and several influencers were like, oh, we take 200 pictures a day and we post one. So I was like, well, this is the recipe. Like, I got to know how to do this. And then you see a change, and the change did not happen because I was like, oh, I've grown and I'm self-aware. Do you know what happened? Honestly, about 3 to 5 women physicians over the course of 1 year shared with me that when they met me in person, they really felt like a connection with me more than online because they saw how real I was. And I realized, like, I'm not putting my real self on social media. So this is like false. So I literally got rid of all the filter apps on my phone. I got rid of the feel, and it's not like it still doesn't come up. Like, it still comes up. But I told my team, I don't want you to only post the perfect pictures of me. Like, I want the real pictures. I want the pictures at the bad angles. I want the pictures not showing me as a size 6 because I'm not a size 6. I want the pictures of me, like, I want the real stuff. Like, and so now if you see my social media, it's totally different. Like, it is the real me. It is me with no makeup on the weekends. It is me with no makeup on call. It is the bad angles. It's just me being real, because again, it's that perfection paralysis, right? Like, it's so exhausting to try to be perfect.
When I met you at the Physician Coaching Summit, I can attest to the reality of the situation over here. And this really brings me, I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes from Brittany Grace. I was listening, and when I parked the car, had to jot this down because it made me both smiles. And I was like, I just have to put it down and share it with all my friends too. So I'll share it with the audience. What does put together even mean, by the way? It's like we think of ourselves as Humpty Dumpty, and once we can find all the king's horses and all the king's men, we will suddenly find happiness, vacations, and skinny jeans that we can breathe in. In your experience, like when we're talking about all of this, so, with the unique, specific way you're helping so many women outside, manifest themselves authentically and show up, I would love to hear in your experience of helping countless women, how does perfectionism show up in particular for mothers and like in the roles women find themselves?
Oh gosh, yeah. A lot of ways, right? Like, we judge ourselves, I think, not for just appearance and how we look. Like, that's a whole topic that you and I could discuss, but there's this achievement, right? Like, what have you achieved? Then there's this, how do you present yourself? Are you, do you look perfect? And then there's this whole, like, are you healthy? Like, like, I remember, like, one of the most popular videos I've ever posted, I'm sitting in my car eating a huge chocolate chip cookie because I was like, I'm going to show women that I'm stressed, and therefore I just went through to Panera and got a massive chocolate chip cookie, and this is how I'm dealing with my stress, because that's real. Like, I stress eat sometimes, and I'm not apologizing for it. Like, right now it's like you have to be food prepping, like, perfect food, and and then there's this level of motherhood that to me is almost the harshest judgment, and it's the most cruelest, I think. Like, if you want to make me feel bad about myself, question me as a mother, or be passive aggressive about motherhood to me, and showing up for my kids, or how I show up, or what didn't show up. I have 4 kids. There was a time where they were all in activities. Now I have 2 at home, and they're in activities. And I remember going to swim lessons once with my child, and the swim lessons happened in the middle of the week at like 10 a.m. and I never could take them. It was always the nanny or my husband. And I went for the first time to swim lessons. And someone said, one of the mothers were talking, and they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Sam's mom." And she said, "We wondered if you even existed." And I just remember, like, it felt like the most judgmental comment, because here I am working 10, 12, 16-hour, 24-hour shifts, have 4 little kids at home, don't even have a minute to breathe. I'm so burned out. I literally go from the hospital to mom. I live for my kids. I have to miss things all the time because I'm working. I'm getting called back to the hospital, and I'm doing the very best I can just to breathe. Like, though, that feeling, just to breathe and just to, like, make it through a day. And they don't know that I'm the mom, and they think I don't exist. Like, or a comment such as, and I hear this comment still. Oh, I love my child. I love my kids too much to do that, to work. Or my kids are too important to me to go to that conference and give a talk. And what I hear is, you don't.
Yeah.
What I would hear is, you don't love your kids as much as me. I love my kids. And it's not that the person means it that way, but that's how I would hear it. And so I think perfection stands up and comes out in women in the most cruelest of ways sometimes. Like, men get a pass. Like, if they're in the OR and they're like, I gotta leave because I gotta go to soccer game, everyone's like, oh,
Yeah.
he is the best dad. Oh, he's finally getting to see his son play soccer. And but if you miss one thing, it's like, because the bar is so high for us as moms, it just feels like there's every aspect of our life as a woman, we can let perfectionism take hold of us and we can just beat ourselves down.
That is so, so true, because I felt this way. We talk about, we're recording this, we're having this conversation. I felt that when I heard other people who looked like me and who could completely echo the responsibilities, missing things, missing pickup, missing activities, and normalize that, I would feel seen and heard. And so part of this is like, not having these conversations is actually hurting us. Having these conversations is helpful. And I love that you brought in the cookie bit in there, because absolutely gaslighting ourselves. Like, you wake up in the morning, you pick up your phone, the first thing your phone's telling you all the things that you haven't done for that day, or you're like, okay, did you wake up and stretch and meditate and hydrate? And also, I mean, who are these people? Yes, you can strive. And that's why I really want to have these conversations that surround perfectionism, because another thing I'm noting is this subtle gaslighting that's happening now that we're talking about, like, self-improvement and all the things. It's like, I have overcome, and now I'm on this other side. Like, even my marketing team was giving me this recommendation to, like, put stuff like that, overcome, like, and I'm on the other side. Like, it was like a battle. And yes, we have had our journeys and struggles. And yes, I help people and I know things and I do all the things, but I'm also very much on the journey. So this false narrative that, okay, there was a hump and I jumped over it and I got like all this training and now I'm helping other people. And so ergo, now I'm perfect. I'm also really trying hard to fight that narrative.
Yes. Yes. And that you can be a work in progress and also an expert helping other people at the same time,
Yes.
right? Like, you're younger than me, you have less experience than me. However, I can learn from you and you can learn from me at the same time. Like, it's not like, oh, Dr. Shillcutt, she's got it all figured out. Like, no, or Dr. Shabbir has it all figured out. Like, I'm going to learn things from you and you are going to learn things from me, even though I'm working on things that maybe you've already figured out and you're working on things that I figured out. Like, we're constantly working, we're a work in progress. And we have to just accept that about ourselves. Like, I keep thinking like, oh, I'm just going to get to this level of positive, the way I talk to myself, because I struggle with my inner voice a lot. I have to do a lot of work on my inner voice. And I remember I was actually coaching last night, my coaching group, and we were talking about our inner voice. And I felt like, I was like, I struggle with this every day. Like, I don't even feel sometimes like I can be an expert in telling you how to do this because I'm still working on this. And then I realize, like, no, that's the whole point of this. You can be a work in progress and be an expert helping others at the same time.
Well said, well articulated. And I think that brings reality and authenticity into it. So specifically talking about your work and helping, you are a woman leader. You have helped other women in countless leadership roles. When I was listening to your TEDx talk, it was so powerful because you talk about this concept of failing forward. So for anyone who hasn't heard your TEDx, I'm going to put the link. Please go ahead and
Thank you.
listen. It's wonderful because you share and you make us all reflect. But as we think about like perfectionism and we're talking about high achieving professionals, them and in and outside of medicine, what do you think happens when you are observing women being held back by perfectionism? And when we look at perfectionism, looking at it 360, you as a woman leader suffering from perfectionism and then also internalizing this narrative of other-oriented and socially prescribed perfectionism that's being hurled at you?
I think it's sometimes we actually hurt women by saying like, oh, you're not ready. You got to figure this out because women are judged harsher, and they are. That's true. And you can't share your idea till you've like ironed it out, or you can't put out that podcast until it's perfect, or do not pitch yourself to speak until you've done this many talks, or we hurt ourselves. We actually hold women back because we know men advance based on their ability. What's the word I'm looking for their potential. And women advance based on their proven record. Like, you got to have proven it. But we look at men and we go, they have potential, but we don't do that to women. We look at women and go, and even I find myself doing this. Like, often I find myself being harder on my female residents and fellows. And it's not because I am like, they're not as good. It's because I'm like, I want them to just be so good when they graduate because I know what's in store for them. Like, I know they're going to be judged harder, and I want them to get the next promotion. I want them to be superstars. And so what I think we do is this social construct of like women having to be perfect and having to figure all this out. We hold them back actually, and we're missing them. We're missing their ideas, sitting around a table discussing things because they're like, I don't have all the answers, so I can't give a answer, right? We judge them harsher, and so we don't put them on a panel, or we don't give them an opportunity to lead. And you just have to get rid of that perfectionism, both in yourself and the way you judge other women, because we should give women a margin of failure. We should give the same margin of failure we give to men. We should give to women. And you want to obviously improve yourself all the time. Like, I always am looking and striving to improve myself. But if I waited to be perfect to do half the things I do, I'd still be waiting to hit publish on my website, So you have to just put yourself out there and know that even in the most perfect of worlds, it's not going to be perfect for someone.
Wow. And this like recognition, and earlier you alluded to like self-compassion. Bringing that right back when we're being so like judging ourselves so harshly, and how can we tie that into all of those ways in which we're holding ourselves back? Like, are we going to talk to ourselves like the way we talk to somebody else, or vice versa?
Oh, so good. So good. I mean, just yesterday I was in a group. A woman was sharing how harsh she was being in her inner voice. And another woman in the group, before I could even weigh in, said, would you say that to me, what you just said about yourself? And it was like you could hear a pin drop. Everybody's paused. I mean, I almost get choked up just repeating it and thinking of it because it was so powerful. Because she would never have said that to the woman sitting on Zoom in the box to her right. But we say that to ourselves. And one thing that was a turning point for me, really to embrace my imperfection, was my oldest child. We had this huge, big floor-length mirror that is in our living room. And I was looking, I always put on clothes and then I come out and look at myself in this mirror and like, does this look okay? And I was doing this, and my son was age 8, and he was literally in the living room, like watching television or something on the TV. And he saw me come out, and I was talking to myself. And I was like, gosh, I look so fat in this outfit. I can't wear this. And we were going out to dinner, my husband and I was trying to figure out what I was going to wear. And my son stopped me and he said, Mom, why do you say that about yourself? That's so mean. Why do you say that? You told me never to use that word. That's a bad word. Why do you say that, Mommy? And I still remember it to this day. I get like chills because he was right. I had told him, like, you don't ever say that's not a nice word. You never use this word about yourself or anyone else. And he heard me saying it about myself. And I think that's probably the last time I've ever called myself that out loud, because it made me stop and go, why would I say that about myself out loud? Even internally now, when I hear that word come up, I just go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, that's not how you talk to yourself. So we have to really understand that we have people watching us, and, there's people watching you. There's people watching you on social media. And if you only posted perfect, there's people, residents and fellows and medical students going, I want to be like Dr. Shabbir. She's so amazing. I want to be her. they're going to do what you do. So if that's what you project as perfect, that's what they're going to do.
Well said. And kids can be such a powerful reflection, constant reminder.
Yeah, whether we like it or not.
Leaning into our actions more than our words and how we represent ourselves. So I have the copy of Grit and Grace is in my audio form, so I don't have the physical copy, but I had to get Brave Boundaries printed because I had to underline it as somebody who struggled with boundaries for the longest time ever. So you really emphasize like the importance of what I would say life-saving boundaries. When we think about perfectionism and we think about boundaries and that sweet spot where we're also like in the space of people pleasing,
Yeah.
what strategies can perfectionists employ to like establish and maintain healthy boundaries without the guilt factor and the fear of failure?
Yeah. So this takes a lot of work. And just because you feel guilty or you feel shame, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. The first thing I tell people is just be aware of it. When you're starting to feel shame, I think Brene Brown says like perfectionism, shame is always riding shotgun, when you are a perfectionist. And so for me, it's a big red flag. It's just a red flag. Like, oh, you're in perfectionism mode. You're in perfect mode because you're feeling shame. So when you feel shame or when you feel guilt setting a boundary, like I'm in perfection mode or I'm in pleasing mode. That's all it is. It's just a red flag. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you've backslid, because these neurons that we formed in childhood. We formed in we're not going to just get rid of them because we took a coaching course. Like they're going to remain, right? They're going to still be there. But if you can be aware of them, if you can go like, I'm in perfection mode. So even me like walking by a mirror, if I see myself starting to feel, if I remember like, oh, I'm starting to feel bad, I don't want to look at myself in the mirror, I just know like, oh, I'm in perfection mode. I'm having a moment of perfection. Doesn't mean I have to stay here. Doesn't mean I have to be here. Doesn't mean that's who I am. But my neuron has gone down the path of least resistance, which is always what you learned as a kid. And I learned it as a kid. I practiced it for 35, 40 years. I'm not going to just not have that neuron go down the pathway. But now I know better. And so I'm not accepting this on myself, and I'm just going to see it as data. Like, oh yeah, I just published a blog with 2 spelling errors. I'm feeling shame about it. I published a blog with 2 spelling errors because I'm human. It's not the end of the world. Is someone going to criticize me? Sure, possibly. Does it have or change the value that I feel as a human being? Absolutely not. Move on. Data collection.
Well said. And it's such a powerful practice of mindfulness too. Like when you're just saying, okay, this is data. I'm just gathering data right now.
Yes.
So when you're working with these amazing humans and women, and you're just like, okay, I wish you could see right now, it's perfectionism that's really holding you back from putting that boundary around you to save yourself. What do you tell these people? How are we going to get over that?
Yeah. So I always say it, and this is going to sound probably like, whoa, but it can be uncomfortable and suck now, or it can be uncomfortable and suck later. You choose your when and how much discomfort. Meaning, you come to me and say, Dr. Shillcutt, I really, really, really want you to speak at this upcoming event. And the minute it gets out of your mouth, I know it's a no for me, because maybe it's a month that I have a lot going on and I would be overstretched and overcommitted. But I like you. I think you're amazing. I want to please you. I want to make you happy. I want you to think good of me. I want you to like me, blah, 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 fill in the blank. This is just an example. It's going to either suck for 20 seconds for me to look at you in the face or send the email immediately back and say, I wish I could. I cannot. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's going to suck. That sucks. Or it's going to suck for weeks because I'm going to ignore it. Then I'm going to feel bad because I procrastinated the boundary and I've procrastinated saying no. And now you send a second email. So now I say yes, even though I don't want to do it because I know it's going to be really stressful. I mean, I want to do it, but I shouldn't do it, but I say yes. And now it's going to suck because that month I'm overstretched. I'm exhausted. I'm not even showing up fully for you. So it can suck for 20 seconds of brave to set the boundary and say no and move on. or it can suck for weeks, months, even a year. You know, I have some women that I coach that are like, I'm on this committee. I've been on this committee for 3 years. I need to get off this committee. Okay, let's get off this committee tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I can't get off the committee tomorrow. It's going to be like a year-long process to extract myself from this committee. And I'm like, so it's going to suck for another year? Like, you want to be uncomfortable for another year on this committee. That is more painful to you than 20 seconds of brave, set the boundary, say no, remove yourself from the situation, get uncomfortable, have that uncomfortable conversation, and then move on. You just choose when it's uncomfortable and how in the duration.
Choosing the time. Yes. So when people are leaning in, like one of the things you talk about in your book is like boundary backlash. I feel like that might be one of the biggest things that we're just so afraid, like the sky is going to fall, what's going to happen to us. And potentially, yeah, things are going to happen to us. But so what do you say to somebody who's like that?
Yeah, so boundary backlash is a real thing, and it's especially something that is real for women and underrepresented minorities, because when we are given or asked to do something, the expectation is always that we're going to say yes, and we're going to be so thankful for this opportunity, even if it's burning us out. And we know women get asked to do these things more than men, and women minorities get asked to do even more. You have to really be aware of this, that backlash is real, because you're going against society, especially when there's a power differential. So if someone up here asks someone down here to do something, the expectation is that person's going to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, right? Even if it's not on our job description, even if we don't get paid to do it, even if it's someone else's job to do it, we're going to be like, sure, yes, sign me up, put me in. So when you actually take your own agency and you say, I either can't do that, I don't have time to do that, I don't have interest in that, that doesn't align with my goals, I'm not paid to do that, that someone else is actually paid to do that, you are bucking the system. You are bucking what everyone expects of you to do. And so you're going to get that backlash. Now, that backlash might look different ways. About a third of the time, it's going to be like, okay, and they're going to move on to the next person. They're actually going to be grateful to you for saying no quick, because it means they can find someone else fast to fill the void. Then there's about a third of people who are like, huh, she said no. I didn't know you could say no. Why don't I say no? I'm kind of inspired to say no. I'm going to start setting boundaries, right? And then there's going to be like this third of people that are like, who does she think she is? She thinks she's better than me. She thinks that she can say no to me. I'm never asking her to do anything again. So you cannot predict. Sometimes we can, but most of the time we can't predict who's going to do what, who's going to receive the backlash the way they did. This is what you have to remember. Just because you receive backlash doesn't mean that you shouldn't have set the boundary or that you said it wrong. It probably means that you're speaking to someone, you're setting a boundary with someone or to someone who doesn't know how to set boundaries or who doesn't feel the same self-agency you do.
Absolutely well said. I feel that way. You know, when you mentioned that you should be so grateful, I call it toxic gratitude, because I've faced that. I know I'm not alone. You've faced that. A lot of us have faced that. And I keep hearing this specifically when I'm surrounding myself with early career clinicians, because they're like, oh, you should be oh so grateful. Like you are here.
Right.
Yeah. Do that. And then I also hear this a lot among international medical graduates when they're like going through this exploitative phase, when they have like visas and situations like that, where they're just like, well, you should be so grateful that you have a job. Whereas, you know, they're doing all the work plus some more, leaning into that and recognizing this leaning into agency. And I was really worried about backlash, but I did apply boundaries when I was practicing full-time as a primary care physician, and it came to time with my patients because I was going home so late. Nothing catastrophic happened. The only side effect ultimately was that I did go home on time, and my patients never waited in the waiting room. And it was a process. It was about a 2-year process, but it worked and things were fine.
Yeah, I love that, because the narrative that we create in our brain is almost always worse than the reality.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And if someone really, I will say this, if you set a boundary that's appropriate and someone comes at you with massive backlash, that is even more data for you to go, I needed to set this boundary. Whoa, right?
Yes.
So, you know, if I say no to somebody and they respond really harshly to me, I'm like, noted. I'm glad I set the boundary because that response tells me this is not a person I want to engage in future collaborations with.
Absolutely. And this is just randomly reminded me when I was listening to Grit and Grace, you talked about interpersonal cleanup. And I know we talked specifically about what women have to do. And I was also really shaking my head when you talked about how you would do interpersonal cleanup after a code. And kind of just like, I just want to make sure that everybody still likes me. And that really does lean into the perfectionistic tendencies we have.
Yeah.
For me, I wanted to be like a really good physician who also is a great mother, who also is like very collegial. So I was just like, wow. And I know so many of us feel that way. I would love your thoughts a little bit about like what propels you to write that. I was just
Yeah.
such a good term.
You know, it's like emotionally taxing to have to sometimes, I mean, oftentimes to show up authentically as who we are as women. And when we are striving for perfection or we're striving for likability, we will have to do that. If you want to be liked as a woman, you will have to go and do emotional and interpersonal cleanup. Do it just to do your job. So, for example, I am sure that when you were implementing these boundaries around clinical appointments and timing, you probably had to do a lot of interpersonal cleanup with the staff and maybe even patients to explain why you were setting these boundaries. And it probably wasn't a one-time conversation. It probably required you to maybe bring some banana bread and donuts and like, right? Like this is what we have to do. Like, I was actually having a conversation with one of my female colleagues a couple years ago, and she's younger than I am. And she was watching me in an interaction in a certain specific clinical area that we both work in. And I was setting a boundary. And she said, I don't understand how you just did that because I take the opposite approach. I bring every time I work in this area and I have to set boundaries or I know I'm going to have to, I bring in sweets and treats. And she's like, this is what I have to do. And she's like, I wish I had your personality so that I didn't have to do that. And I said, oh, first of all, when I was very junior, I would do the same thing because I didn't have the understanding on how or the training and I didn't have the years of experience. And so this isn't like I just have a better personality than you or a way to set boundaries better than you. I had to do the same thing when I was, an early career physician. And we shouldn't have to do that. Like nobody should have to do that. Like you shouldn't have to buy your way to do something that's appropriate in setting boundaries. But we do often. Like that's what women find themselves doing in the workplace. Like men never think, oh, I'm going to have to set boundaries today. I'm going to bring donuts. They're not doing that. We are. So it's really interesting, all the taxing kind of emotional work that we have to do that we don't realize just exhausts us.
It's adding to all that mental load. Absolutely. And I just, when I'm working with folks, I let them know to stop talking. After you've made a statement, just stop. Like one of the things that we also want to do is just over explain ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So the cows come home. I just want to make sure you know why I'm doing this. Like I hope you like I have to tell you I should probably send you the temperature log of my child to make sure you know if the temp was 103.5 and let me also let you know, like, I'm literally about to keel over and that's why I can't come in today.
Yeah.
And also then and I'm giving this example of us not going in when we're sick, but also while we're sitting at home, continue to like marinate in the shame and the guilt of all the people that need to be rescheduled for that day. Our poor colleague who had to pick up slack for us, all of these extremely unsustainable narratives that we're.
Yes. Instead of just being like, we're humans and we work in a human environment where there's a lot of illness and sickness, and we're going to sometimes have a percentage of people that are sick. And so let's work that into our FTE, right? And expectations.
Absolutely. So if I was to now invite you to look at that woman who is just paralyzed with perfectionism, internal, self-oriented, as well as other-oriented, socially prescribed, all the ways, I feel like it's not one category. We are marinating in all three of them, depending on the season, the month, the time of the day. What are some of the steps or things that I know that this conversation and the acknowledgement and the earlier things that you've mentioned are critical. What other things would you just talk to that woman?
Yeah, I would say I would say what I would say to myself. And that would be kinder to yourself than necessary. There are so many things that don't matter, that we judge ourselves so harshly on, and we miss out on so much joy and opportunity because we try to be so perfect and we are so judgmental. And I would also say, don't let other people determine your future. Don't worry about what somebody's going to think of you when you say no or you pursue your own path. Don't stay on a committee or in a job or in a task or a title or even an institution that is not aligned with your goals. Even if you're finding success there, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what your mentor's going to say. Just don't let other people define your future for you. And I think I did for many years out of fear of disappointing others. And I wish I wouldn't have, it took me like 10 years of practice to figure that out, that I know what's best for me and I don't need 5 mentors to sign off on it. And that's what I would say. Just don't let other people define your future.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all your incredible insights and for the work that you're doing that is so heart-centered. I know that I'm going to be putting in all the links for the podcast, which is incredible, as well as the books. Anything you would like to add to what we talked about today, and how can other individuals learn more about you?
You can find out about me at becomebraveenough.com. I have a Friday newsletter called The Scoop, and it's easy to sign up for that. I write a little short 30-second blog every Friday, and all my stuff that's upcoming events and speaking and such is in there. And I just so appreciate the work you're doing. And I love that you're putting yourself out there when you haven't figured it all out, and you're so open and vulnerable, and you're helping so many early career physicians find their voice and stay in medicine, which is what we need. So thank you so much for the invitation, and I so appreciate being here with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shillcutt. This episode is part of a special series and my budding book project on unmasking perfectionism. You might believe you don't have the time or energy to focus on yourself, but this is exactly the right time to get serious about your well-being. You don't have to do it all alone. I'm here to help. If you enjoyed this video and are ready to take the next step, head over to dramnashabbir.com, where you'll find free resources you can access right away. The website link is below. Let's get started on your path to thriving. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Just a quick reminder, while I am a physician, I'm not your physician, and nothing in this podcast is medical advice or any kind of professional advice. Everything shared here is based on my personal experiences, and the views expressed are entirely my own. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and share the show with anyone who might need a little inspiration to redefine their own version of success. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep reimagining success one small step at a time.